Okay, as I mentioned when I introduced Jake, we're going to, over the next 6 to 8 months, introduce some startup companies in the Peoria area that are generating out of the distillery labs downtown Peoria. And so our first presenter is going to be Brandon Johnson. He's the co-founder of ShotHawk. And what ShotHawk is an autonomous active threat response company, and it's based out of the distillery labs right now. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the distillery labs, it's the old ICC campus downtown Peoria. They've put a bunch of money into that place, and there's quite a few startup companies germinating out of that facility. One of the most successful, as I've seen in my time supporting that facility down there, is ShotHawk. Brandon is a graduate of Bradley University. He's got a mechanical engineering degree. He's working at CAT by day, but he's developing this technology, hardware as well as software, by night. And Brandon, you come up here and take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, Kurt. So yeah, as Kurt mentioned, I'm the co-founder and CEO of ShotHawk. We're based out of Distillery Labs downtown, and he mentioned we're an active threat response company. So let's talk. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Is it not working?
Yeah, it's not working.
As soon as I shared my screen, what the heck?
Okay, so yeah, we're all familiar with active shooting and stabbing situations. As we all know, that we turn on the news, we're becoming way too familiar with these situations occurring. So that is the problem we're working towards solving. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is a little bit about the problem deeper. So currently, in places like K through 12 schools, you have platforms that are doing early detection, and schools are putting quite a bit of money into that, and other institutions for that matter. And we're really focusing on the other half of that. The early detection only does you good if you have an early response. You can't have police officers everywhere at once. You can't have school resource officers everywhere at once, and you can't have security officers everywhere at once. So by having an early response, you're able to buy time until they're able to arrive on scene. And you know, having more of those people to try to make the response time less also can get really expensive very fast. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is a little bit about kind of what we are envisioning for an early response. So we have created what we call an active threat crisis responder that is able to activate after there has been an emergency indicated. So in a security system, in schools right now, after there's an emergency indicated, people are able to hit panic buttons, whether it's on their phone, on their badge in many cases, or it's a physical built-in panic button. Or maybe you have a threat detection software that has indicated there's an emergency. Regardless of how that emergency has been indicated, we are able to receive that there is, in fact, with that emergency signal, so to speak, we're able to receive that, and then our device is able to activate. If you can go to the next slide, our device is able to activate based on that, and then we are able to deploy a non-lethal onto the assailant. We have a vision AI that has been built into our device, and it's able to track the assailant and then autonomously deploy onto them. So we use non-lethals to do that and to slow down the threat. So the specific non-lethal we're working with is pepper gel. We've designed our device so it can be configurable to take other kinds of non-lethals in the future, whether you want to go the other direction of maybe having something that isn't quite as physical, like a laser or a light blinder, all the way to the more physical end, where you have bean bags, rubber bullets, or pepper balls. And then, of course, that device stays in engagement with the threat until your police or security officials or your good guy that's serving as the Good Samaritan is able to show up on scene. If you can go to the next slide, please. So Kurt mentioned that we are based out of Distillery Labs, working with Bradley University and the Illinois Science and Technology Coalition. We have had a pilot program across the state of Illinois. And as you guys may know, AI isn't perfect. So what we are doing is we're working really hard to better understand the edge cases or the cases in which our AI might not be operating under the strongest of conditions. Because if you want to identifying a threat, you got to make sure that you understand the situations in which it may not function 100%. So we are doing the best we can right now with pilot programs like this to understand those edge cases. And we had a 120-page research report that Bradley gave back to us after this project. And I'm happy to report that our positivity rate went from 65% on a frame-by-frame basis to an 85% positivity rate. So what that means is when you put that in a video stream, it takes about 5 images approximately for us to identify a hit. So if each one of those images has an 85% accuracy, we're doing pretty good. But that is a result of these. So if you've been around town or across the state and ran across one of these, you can see some of our partners up there on the screen that have these. That is what these units were doing. They were collecting the data and they were looking for people that had weapons that likely didn't. So if it spotted a knife or a gun, it would report that back to us. And we were like, is it actually that? And we had to flush through all the data, yes, to verify that there were no actual weapons. But these were just some pictures of our units from those programs. You can go to the next slide. So you may be curious, well, so I know this is more of a financial slide here, but you may be curious just how big of a market this is out there. There's a lot of people in the security space. So this isn't really a pitch to you guys about the financial side, but just to show you that there is a really big market and a really big need for this. You can see that K through 12 schools is a $26 billion a year market. That is actually a subsegment of what other security companies are serving, because we have the early detection companies out there. They're serving a market that is a little bit bigger than this, but the early response is obviously a very large market as well. You can go to the next slide. So these are some of the other people that are currently in the sector. I mentioned that there's people doing early response. Flock safety, some of you guys may have seen the license plate readers along the side of the road with the solar panels. They actually solve 10% of all the crime in the US. And that is a hardware software product like what we are proposing. So we believe that we can curb the incidents in active shooting situations and stabbing situations in a very similar manner. Then you have Axon, who has been very aggressive about trying to solve the threats. And then there's a couple other companies up here that are kind of dabbling in the space that we are. I mean, you can see none of them really quite have developed the products that we have. A lot of them are solving problems in adjacent spaces that when you put all these companies together, they're able to create an ecosystem where there is some overlap, but you're able to provide the most effective response possible. And so you may be wondering, what is it that we do unique? So we are the only company right now that has a fully functioning autonomous deterrent. We're the only one that has a controlled mechanism for activating. What that means is we're the only one that can plug into an existing security system right now or an existing way of identifying, hey, there is an emergency. Everyone else, you got to put in a whole new system. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cases, sometimes tens of thousands. Ours is just a simple unit you can put up on a tile ceiling like this actually, and just plug in a wire and it's ready to go. Maybe, well, actually it's a lie, it's a few wires. But either way, we also have a mitigation plan for our false positives. So I mentioned that earlier, when AI is not perfect, what do you do in that situation? So when this gets implemented in a place like a school, you guys are all familiar with the old adage, stop, drop, and roll for fire situations, right? So we have what we call stop, drop, and run. So obviously, if you're not the one committing the crime, you're going to drop everything out of your hands, and the device won't get you. And because we focus on the interaction between a weapon and the hand, or a weapon in some other part of the body, if someone's come up with a unique way to configure their weapon in response to us. But either way, in response to that, we have basically made our units, if someone's not holding something, it's not going to deploy on them. So obviously, when it catches the person, it will stay tagged to who the threat is. But that's kind of the plan on how we plan on mitigating that. I already showed you guys the pilot program. We have a fantastic relationship with those institutions that took each of our 25 pilot units. And we also have a very flexible hardware configuration. So what this means is our device can be used under a variety of different scenarios. So let's say, instead of wanting it mounted just indoors, you can also put it outside. You could put it on something that's moving. We're really designing the first piece in a plug-and-play infrastructure where you're able to have it in a unique set of circumstances. So you come to us telling us how you want to use it, and our device, maybe not now, but someday in the future, we'll be able to use in those scenarios. So you may be wondering, what's the price like on this? Don't worry, all the pricing has changed. It's actually gone down. We learned we chatted with Ring's former CEO, Jamie Siminoff, a couple weeks ago that has changed some of these prices because some understanding we had of how the liability was going to work actually is changing in the market as a whole, so that's awesome. It means we'll be able to offer this at a much lower price. But you guys are probably wondering, okay, how much is this actually going to cost for a school? Our early indications will probably be somewhere about 2/3 the prices of what you see here. So our React is the baseline unit we're offering. What that means is after an emergency has been indicated, it's able to scan the environment, identify the person with a weapon, and deploy non-lethal onto them. You're probably wondering, well, what's the Spot then? The Spot is all the additional functionalities that the people that are managing the crisis, such as the active shooting or stabbing, will need. So the Spot has, it's able to send live feed video back to your security systems app. It's able to record, send it to, not directly on our device, it can send it to a video management system. It has all the video feed interactive features that you would want, so that way you can make better decisions. And then this is our team. So my two co-founders, Om and Ved, we all have engineering degrees, and we all are learning everything else, just trying to build this business. And we have some awesome people with a lot of experience that we're pulling from, both locally and from across the state of Illinois. And we're very excited to be building this. With the resources we've had, it's quite incredible how far we've come. But the lean development approach, if you can survive doing that, you can survive when you get money. So this is just kind of a high-level overview of where we're at. And I know you guys will see the number there. Well, I thought you said 25 pilots. Well, it actually took 30 pilot units to be able to sustain that whole pilot test group of 25. We are patent pending right now, so we've protected ourselves in that space. We've talked with over 80 people that have businesses and schools and police and are in police departments. So if anyone here has a business or anything, they're like, how would this work in my situation? Feel free to let me know afterwards. And then we did produce all of the units for that program in distillery labs downtown. So we have a small scale production setup, and we've already learned a lot of our inefficiencies. And then this is kind of just a little bit of an overview of where we've been and where we're going. So I know Kurt mentioned a little bit in the intro. I went to Bradley. My co-founder Om also went to Bradley, and then later Northwestern. My other co-founder Ved went to University of Illinois. So we're kind of intertwined with all these different ecosystems, and we've actually found that the Peoria-Champaign combination works really well, which is awesome because it means we're still here. So we heavily utilized the relationships with Distillery Labs. We were part of the Generator G Beta program, which if any of you guys are interested in getting involved with it, talk to Kurt. And then we've also been at Summerfest. You guys have heard of Summerfest Music Festival, maybe. They have a tech conference there. So we were one of the finalists for the tech conference, got to go up and pitch in front of 600 people, made some awesome connections. And we were also just ranked by TechCrunch as a top 15 government and legal startup in the world. So we'll be at TechCrunch Disrupt later this month. So that is really just some tremendous traction. We'll be out in Silicon Valley and get to leverage all the connections.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's a huge deal. And we actually, in kind of our this is a little bit of insider information here for you guys, but we actually just yesterday on our pre-call with them, their jaws were basically on the floor on the call. They're like, you guys are doing what? You already have what developed off what money raised? And we're like, yeah, we know. It's crazy, right? So yeah, with that, if you can go to the next slide, this is just our high-level timeline of being a startup. All this has changed, but I wanted to keep it real for you guys so you can see how things have changed. Realistically, you got to shift all of these to the next to the next goal, so to speak. So we're going to be approaching the beta, just for a little bit of background on what the beta is for you guys. That's when we're going to be putting our fully redeveloped product, because I mentioned some efficiencies in our manufacturing. We're fixing that and already have it fixed, and putting it together, just testing it right now. But that will be early January, maybe February. And so you can just pretty much shift the rest of these back for when they'll be available. So I would assume you guys have a lot of questions, and I'll let you guys fire away. Well, thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming in and sharing this project with us. So I have two questions. One is, just so I understand it correctly, so you have a system that will detect people that have either a firearm, a knife, or something like that. And then the second part of that is you can provide or use a non-lethal to basically attach to them, and it's like a pepper spray, or it could be other non-lethals.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all on one device. So basically this device, if schools, if they already have a weapon detection system in place, they can hook it up to ours, and we will still run our own, but it serves as a double check.
Okay.
So you're having it happen multiple times, so that way you're not 100%, but as close to 100% as you can get, sure of, yes, this is in fact our threat.
Okay. And the second question I had, which was related once I understood that side of it, is with the non-lethals, and I've always wondered this, whether it's a riot, whether it's this or that or the other, but you have somebody doing an act. In this case, it's maybe just carrying a knife, carrying a gun. Do the non-lethals have any kind of color injected, like with a bank, if you steal money, they have the pods that blow up purple. So it marks the person as well as the money. Do you incorporate any dyes or anything like that so you can track the person once they're out of the area?
So right now, we're just working on the device to deploy those. Those can be options. In fact, the non-lethal we're working with right now is red. So for that specific one, the answer would be yes.
Brandon, I can pull up your website real quick. You've got that video.
If you want to flip to the next slide, actually, I think there is a video there,
Oh,
just
okay.
to give people a better idea. I'm not sure if it's
Okay.
Okay, hold on, give me one
Well,
second.
that answers it. And there's a question I've had previously in other scenarios, so it kind of applied to this. It just makes sense to mark that person too, so if they get outside of an area, at least temporarily.
I'll let them.
Oh, here you go.
Who's next? Yeah, here's the video, by the way. This, maybe it doesn't come in as a video. Yeah, go to the website.
It might.
Yeah, we do use silly string in practice, by the way. We do not use pepper gel. It's not pepper spray, by the way, it's pepper gel. It's a lot nastier than pepper spray. It's an important distinction. It sprays like silly string and has the impact of pepper spray. We do not like it. We tested with it a few times and it got all over a few of my co-founders. Wasn't very much that they had to get on for it to be effective.
Thanks for coming. I had a quick question. How does it differentiate a good guy from a bad guy that's carrying a firearm or knife?
Well, this is actually one of my favorite questions because it focuses on the future of what integrations we're going to need. So the spot, I mentioned the differences between the React and the spot without getting too far down this rabbit hole. The spot will have the ability to be able to connect with different geo mapping softwares, which right now, for those of you who may not be aware, geomapping softwares are this thing where it identifies where police officers are within an environment and other security officials. A lot of schools out in the Denver, Colorado area are the first ones kind of pioneering this in terms of being the use case customers out there. So you'll be able to tell who the good guy and bad guy is from those softwares very soon. Probably within the next 5 years, I would say, maybe here in Central Illinois, maybe a little longer than that. But those are the kind of softwares that would give that information to our units. For now, what we have is we have a controlled shutdown where after the appropriate responders arrive on scene, they're able to shut down the system. This is the part where it can vary depending upon how your security system is set up. An important piece to note is we're just selling this unit. It's up to your security system to be configured the way you want it for shutdown. Because some institutions may want it to be really hard for it to shut down. And they only have one source. Others are probably going to want it to be in the app where people can go and say, hey, emergency's done, like disarm, or have buttons all throughout the place that can disarm it with like an RFID tag. So that one's going to depend on the security system integrator. We're just trying to provide them the options to do so and what makes sense with them in their local environment.
Thank you. Follow-up question, is there a residential application?
We've been getting this question a lot. As of now, this is just commercial, but given the fact that really there would be no difference, our React unit would probably be well suited for residential, high-end residential, considering when you get to a certain point in the security space, the same components, if you have high enough residential real estate, the same components are being used for both commercial and residential in many cases. So this would be a very similar situation. So roundabout answer to that is yes, but probably not immediately unless we had any people who were like, try it at my house.
Brandon, thanks for sharing. Quick question is, you mentioned something on a mobile option as far as, is it like on rails during schools? Is that something like that you talked about previously?
Yes. So for those of you who have seen a pitch from me before, or maybe have seen something from us on the news, you may have seen our device on a rail track. And that is just one variation of how this could be able to move throughout an environment someday. We didn't realize how far ahead we were pushing what computers could do at that time. That it takes a lot of processing power. So basically at this point, we're developing this device. Yes, for those of you who are wondering, we do use NVIDIA components inside of our devices, and they are very capable, but at the same time, they still have a few limits, and we were pushing the limits back then. I'm happy to say that now we probably aren't, on how movement impacts things. So as the training models get better for the AI, and as the computer hardware continues to get better from NVIDIA, that will become more and more of a reality of what we can do within the customer's price point.
And a quick follow-up, you mentioned a little insider information on Silicon Valley. Any insider information on when the IPO will be launched?
Probably a long time, considering Flock in our industry. They're bringing in, I think, $9 billion a year, and they have not IPO'd yet.
Question, are you approaching churches in regards to this?
We have had a discussion with a church security consultant who said that this would be a great fit. We have not taken the liberty to approach churches just simply because we're bootstrapping this, so all of our daytime calendars are swamped, and then when we get around to night, it's like, okay, do we go talk to people or we build? And it's a very delicate balance we're walking. If you know anyone we should speak to, I'd be happy to speak to them.
Do you have salespeople going out, approaching the schools and so on?
Not yet, but we will be building that up soon. That is the hope, at least.
Good idea.
We will need, this is the part where it's going to get a little interesting. We will need investment before we can do that, because the people, because the people you want approaching the schools, they need to have a certain level of credibility. From, hey, I've been in your shoes. So it's likely going to be someone who's an ex-school resource officer, someone who's an ex-superintendent, maybe even ex-longtime teacher of, hey, look, I know the pain of this. And yeah, perfect example. So yeah, we would need to have the ability to either pay someone like that or have them be very interested in the cause to go out and sell this to schools.
What would you say the biggest difference is between what you're out there now piloting and what your original concept / first prototype looked like?
Our original concept was for this to be on a drone. That is what 2 of our competitors are doing now. Let's just put it this way. We understand the liability implications of doing that, and that was why we pivoted away from it, not to mention this device could be mounted on a drone someday. So just developing the deployment interaction between the assailant and our system was something that we felt like needed to happen instead of doing it all at once. Because once you get a device on a drone, you're really limiting yourself because you have to develop both the drone infrastructure and the device infrastructure. And what we're seeing right now with one of our main competitors is they've put themselves in a box where they have a drone and they can only use one type of non-lethal that only works on 2 styles of guns. So if I wanted to 3D print a cover for my gun, it doesn't work. So I'm not trying to shoot holes in what our competition is doing, but it's like, you know, you really restrict yourselves to having options later.
So you talked about this ceiling would be perfect for putting something. So I'm confused on how that would work, because what I'm understanding is it's probably on an entry door that this would work best. How would it work in a room like this?
So this is where I'm going to tell you, having a security consultant with years of experience that knows this type of scenario would be able to answer that question best. But from my experience, we're telling people to start with the entryways. And then as you want to build out your infrastructure, you can move to putting them across the room in similar manners to where you would have your security cameras. These things are able to spray with a 20-foot radius. Yes, we can adjust that. The pepper gel supplier we're working with, they can make it spray as far as 50 feet. Yeah, they can make it spray as far as 50 feet. These numbers are old. Please don't show us back, by the way. But yeah, if you want to just go back to the school slide, you can do that. But yeah, we would say that if you are likely to put a security camera there, you would consider putting one of these units there. Really, it's just the points that you don't think you could have a quick response to, that you'd be concerned about an incident breaking out in, like your main entryways, sometimes outside in covered balcony area, or not balcony, covered entryway areas, like schools, they have multi-tiered entryways. If you guys remember the Nashville shooting where the shooter shot out the glass to walk in, maybe you put 2 units, one outside, one inside. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
What if the assailant is a drone and it's outdoors? You're not going to spray it with a pepper spray or with the mushy pepper, whatever it is. What would you do?
So if the assailant is a drone, we would be venturing into the solution where we would be venturing into a variation of the software where we would be developing it for a defense hybrid application. When I said that we had I wasn't expecting this question, because this is usually what I get with our defense audiences, but usually, or critical infrastructure. But there are, when I said we had a flexible hardware platform, what that means is the hardware stays the same, and we can flash a different software on it for that scenario. So let's say people start bringing 3D printed ghost guns, and those become a lot more prevalent. And I'm not going to speak too much to the details about that, because that gets very scary fast. But if we need a better AI model, our hardware doesn't change, and we put new software on it, and all the units are able to understand better what those 3D printed ghost guns are. If drone attacks start happening, and those become common things, people are able to get the new software for that, because we have the flexible hardware software platform.
I'll be the saleswoman for you. I have another question, sorry, very quick one. The proximity you said is 50 feet, but that's, I mean, if the shooter is quite close, what if the shooter is shooting from far further? How can you? Yeah, like a sniper or
if they're a sniper, that is where you would.
But sniper is probably from a different area. What if it's further than 50 feet? What would you do?
So if you have and I feel like I know where this question is coming from with the sniper situation, given some of the recent events in the news. But I feel if you have one of these, if you have a sniper, that is where our unit would be best suited on the mobile application, like we were saying later. So our first initial products that we're offering for this device are only going to be for the close range, because they would have to be on a mobile unit to be able to respond to ones that are further away. So with that, we're able to take care of most of the mass shootings and stabbing situations. So we're addressing the largest, most frequent recurring incidents first. And then that also coincides with as the technology builds, we're able to better respond to those other incidents that would need a more mobile device to get to them, like a drone.
So you mentioned, just quickly, you mentioned Ring doorbell as being a potential friend.
There's a lot of potential
fundraising, investment opportunities, things like that.
Yes. If you guys if you could go back to my contact information slide. For anyone that is interested in learning more about us or is potentially interested, we do have an angel investment list, by the way, of people that are looking to be angel investors for us. So if anyone's interested in potentially angel investing, talk to me or reach out to me. There's my email and my phone number there. We have this list and we're not going to begin fundraising likely until later this year, around December, or early next year, sometime between January and March. This is just simply because we have some business stuff we have to get cleaned up. Everything's looking very strong on our IP portfolio side. I was telling Kurt, this stuff is looking very strong on the IP portfolio side, on our development end. But, we have a few things we got to go through in terms of getting our business ready to take in money, as well as vetting people ahead of time so we know we have strong partners, rather than just accepting the first investment offer that comes our direction. We also currently have a lot we're doing for TechCrunch Disrupt, so that is why we are not getting to it this month. But yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to come chat with me afterwards. Thank you.